Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the rLounge. Families love to say, nothing brings people together like a loss. And yet somehow, the minute a will gets involved, everyone's inner goblin wakes up with a calculator and a grudge. Today in the rLounge, what happens when grief meets entitlement, and one sibling decides that inheritance means whatever I want, regardless of reality. Lazy brother demanded I sell my house for his inheritance. Now he's furious he's getting nothing. I bought him a tiny toy house as a gift. My parents died in a car accident a few months ago. It was sudden and devastating. I'm 35, my brother's 38, and we were left to handle everything with their estate. When we met with the executor for the reading of the will, my brother was already acting entitled before we even knew what was in it. He kept making comments about how he needed this and how he was counting on a big inheritance. My parents left their primary residence to me and their vacation cabin to my brother. The moment this was announced, he completely lost it in the executor's office. He started ranting about how unfair it was, claiming the house was worth way more than the cabin, and that our parents were supposed to split everything evenly. I was still processing my grief and wasn't in the mood for his tantrum, so I just let him vent while the executor looked increasingly uncomfortable. After the meeting, I found out from my cousin that my brother hadn't actually worked in 3 years. He'd been living off his girlfriend's income while claiming to be between opportunities. Classic. He'd always been the type to take the path of least resistance through life. Even as kids, I was the one who did chores and helped around the house, while he found excuses to get out of everything. About a week after the will reading, I started hearing from extended family members asking why I was being unfair about the inheritance. Apparently, my brother had been spreading lies, telling everyone I had manipulated our parents into giving me the house. He conveniently left out the part where he got the cabin. Then he showed up at my place unannounced. When I opened the door, I could tell he was already worked up. He demanded we talk about our inheritance and insisted I needed to sell the house and split the money with him, claiming it was the only thing fair to do. I reminded him that the will was clear. The house was mine and the cabin was his. This set him off on a rant about how I was always the favorite child, bringing up random incidents from 25 plus years ago as evidence. I had to remind him that I helped our parents with renovations and maintenance for years while he never visited unless he needed the money. He just scoffed and said that was me sucking up to them. The conversation went nowhere. The next few weeks were a nightmare of text messages, social media posts, and family drama. My brother started messaging our cousins claiming I was hoarding the inheritance. Thankfully, some of them sent me screenshots of these conversations so I could see what he was saying about me. I ended up blocking him on all social media after he posted a long rant about greedy siblings who steal family legacies. Then came the threatening text message. He said he was going to contest the will and claimed to have evidence our parents weren't of sound mind when they drafted it. This was complete nonsense. Our parents were sharp as tacks until the day they died. I later found out he'd been telling people they had dementia, which was an absolute lie. 2 days later, his girlfriend messaged me saying I should be the bigger person and give him half the house value. She let it slip that he'd already spent money they didn't have on a consultation with someone to challenge the will. I wasn't surprised. My brother has always been impulsive with money, which is probably why our parents structured their will the way they did. A few weeks later, I received notice that he was formally contesting the will. My aunt called me to let me know he'd been borrowing money from various family members, claiming it was for legal fees to get justice. I doubted he was actually using the money for lawyers, and I was right. I found out through another cousin that my brother had already sold the cabin our parents left him and blown through the money in less than 2 months. Apparently, he spent it on a luxury vacation with his girlfriend and a new gaming setup. So much for needing his fair share of the inheritance to survive. A few days later, his girlfriend texted me claiming he was having a mental breakdown because of my selfish actions. She demanded I give him $50,000 as a fair compromise to keep my family peace. I met with the executor of the estate, who confirmed what I already knew. The will was solid, and my brother had no grounds to contest it. Just to be safe, I decided to revise my own will to ensure my brother would get absolutely nothing if something happened to me. I didn't trust him not to try the same tactics with my estate. As my brother's birthday approached, several family members suggested I try to make peace with him. They clearly didn't understand the level of harassment I'd been dealing with. That's when I got the idea for the perfect gift, a tiny dollhouse. I ordered one online, and a nice detailed Victorian-style dollhouse that cost about $100. I sent the wrapped dollhouse to his address with a card saying, "Here's your house. Enjoy your inheritance." I also included printouts of all his threatening messages and social media posts, just to remind him of his behavior over the past month. His reaction was exactly what I expected. He posted a video of himself smashing the dollhouse with a hammer, calling me every name in the book. His girlfriend joined in the video, saying I was mentally disturbed for such a cruel joke. The video quickly backfired when family members saw his unhinged behavior. Several relatives who had been on the fence about the situation messaged me to say they now understood what I'd been dealing with. The situation took an unexpected turn when my brother's girlfriend broke up with him. She messaged me apologizing for her role in his harassment campaign, explaining that she'd discovered he'd been lying about numerous aspects of the inheritance situation. She said she'd finally realized he was just using her for financial support while spinning tales about being wronged by his family. With his girlfriend gone, my brother got evicted from their apartment, which she owned, and immediately started messaging me demanding I let him move into our parents' house. I responded with a listing for local homeless shelters. Harsh, maybe, but after months of harassment, threats, and lies, my patience was completely gone. The whole situation had been exhausting. I lost my parents, and instead of being able to properly grieve, I've had to deal with my entitled brother's constant demands and harassment. The house isn't even particularly valuable. It's a modest 3-bedroom in an average neighborhood. The cabin he sold was actually quite nice, on a small lake about 2 hours outside the city. I've been thinking about selling the house anyway, not because of my brother's demands, but because it's full of memories that are still painful. If I do sell, I'm not telling anyone in my family until after the fact, and my brother definitely won't be seeing a penny of it. The executor told me my brother's challenge to the will doesn't have a leg to stand on, especially since he already accepted his portion of the inheritance by taking possession of the cabin and selling it. You can't accept a part of the will and then contest another part. The most frustrating part of this whole situation is that if my brother had just accepted his inheritance gracefully, he'd be in a much better position now. The cabin was worth a decent amount, not as much as the house, but still significant. And if he'd kept it, he'd at least have a place to live. Or, if he'd sold it and used the money wisely, he could have put a down payment on a small place of his own. Instead, he blew it all in a matter of weeks and is now essentially homeless. Update 1. It's been about a month since my last post, and the situation with my brother has escalated beyond what I ever thought possible. Many of you asked for an update, so here it is. After I sent him that dollhouse and he posted his hammer smashing tantrum video online, things took a turn for the worse. My brother showed up at my house with all his belongings piled in his car. When I opened the door, he immediately started trying to push his way inside, claiming he had nowhere else to go, and that it was our parents' house, so he had every right to live there. I blocked the doorway and told him to leave. Instead, he unloaded his stuff onto my front lawn and set up what can only be described as a pathetic camping situation. He had a lawn chair, a cooler, and was acting like he was going to just live in my front yard indefinitely. My neighbors were understandably concerned and called the police, who removed him after he refused to leave voluntarily. As they were escorting him away, he was shouting that I was dead to him, but also that I owed him a place to live. The mental gymnastics required to hold both those positions simultaneously is impressive. 2 days later, I started getting messages from family members asking why I had physically assaulted my brother when he just came to talk. Apparently, he'd been telling people I punched him and pushed him down my front steps when he came to reconcile. Thankfully, I had installed a doorbell camera after his previous drunk visit, so I had clear footage showing this never happened. I posted the video on social media after multiple relatives questioned me about the assault. The footage clearly showed him trying to force his way into my house while I simply stood in the doorway blocking him, followed by him setting up camp on my lawn. No physical contact whatsoever. My caution paid off when the cameras caught my brother attempting to break into the house through a back window. The motion lights came on, the camera alert went to my phone, and I called the police immediately. They arrested him for attempted breaking and entering. His excuse? He claimed he was just checking if I was okay, since I wasn't answering my phone, because obviously the normal response to someone not answering their phone is to try to break into their house through a window. I'll update again if anything significant happens, but for now, I'm focusing on enforcing the restraining order and keeping myself safe. Final update. I'm writing this final post to close the chapter on this nightmare with my entitled brother. After months of harassment, my brother finally did something that landed him in serious legal trouble. I came home from work to find my house completely trashed. Furniture overturned, walls spray painted with thief and give me what's mine, and worst of all, irreplaceable family photos and memories deliberately destroyed. My parents' wedding album was torn to shreds. The quilt my grandmother made was slashed with a knife. The security cameras I installed caught him red-handed entering with a key he must have made without my knowledge. The idiot even posted "Justice served" with a house emoji on social media right after the break-in. The police arrested him for breaking and entering, vandalism, and violating a restraining order. Given his previous record with the attempted break-in, the judge showed no mercy. He was sentenced to 18 months in prison with the possibility of parole after 12 months. Good riddance. After the insurance covered the repairs, I decided to renovate the entire house, updating features while preserving its character. It was therapeutic. I've heard my brother is miserable in prison. Several relatives who visited reported he's become the target of other inmates who don't appreciate his entitled attitude. He apparently tried his manipulation tactics on the wrong person and got a black eye for his trouble. I can't say I feel much sympathy. His ex-girlfriend reached out recently to apologize again and mentioned he'd tried contacting her from prison. She's moved on with someone who actually contributes to their relationship and has blocked all his attempts at communication. The restraining order has been extended indefinitely, and I've made it clear to all my family members that I will never have any relationship with my brother again. My brother will be eligible for parole in a few months. I've already informed local police about the situation and upgraded my home security system again. The prosecutor has assured me that any violation of the restraining order after his release will result in him serving the remainder of his sentence plus additional time. I found documentation recently that my brother had actually tried to get our parents to change their will in his favor multiple times before they died. They refused each time, seeing through his manipulation. No wonder he was so angry when the will was read. He'd already failed at rigging the system in his favor. Some relatives suggested I should visit him in prison to get closure. I laughed in their faces. The only closure I needed was him facing consequences for his actions and being removed from my life. I already have that. This is my final update because there's nothing more to say. My brother's out of my life permanently, and I couldn't be happier about it. The tiny tour house was just the beginning of him getting exactly what he deserves from me. Absolutely nothing. Your parents trusted you with the home because you were the one who consistently showed up, helped, and cared. Your brother, on the other hand, had already shown them exactly who he was. The way he reacted, lying to family, demanding money, selling his inheritance and blowing through it instantly, then escalating into harassment and break-ins, is absolutely unhinged, not to mention dangerous and deeply disrespectful to both you and your parents' memory. It makes complete sense that you're done with him. Some relationships are simply too toxic and too destructive to salvage, even if they're biological. What would you do if you were OP? Let us know in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today in the rLounge. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time. Oh, and please put your chair back where you found it.